Hi, in this video, I'm going to talk about redundancy at layers 1, 2, and 3. A little bit about the benefits, a little bit about the issues, and we'll talk more about these in upcoming videos here. So first of all, redundancy is important. If we have a link failure, if we'd like to have a redundant link to use, if we have a device failure, we want to have possibly a redundant another device to be able to use, and we'll talk about some of this in later chapters. But redundancy, especially in critical areas of our network, is important. So there's both layer 3, well, first of all, let me mention layer 1 redundancy. I mentioned that already a little bit. If a link goes down, a cable problem, whatever, we want to be able to have another link to rely on. Layer 2. So here we have a layer 2 redundancy. Whoops, let me back up there. Sorry about that. There we go. I'm not going to reshoot this. Let me just keep on going, okay? All right, there we go. I forgot to hit the pen here. So let me actually start with layer 3 redundancy, excuse me. So layer 3 here, in routing, that's what we have here. These are routers. There's only one path to any network. That's what routers have. They have a routing table, and they only have one path to forward a unicast packet, a packet for a single device. Now, in layer 2 redundancy, Ethernet, we have these things called unknown unicasts. What happens if switch 1 here receives an Ethernet frame from A, and it's destined for the MAC address, the layer 2 address of B. If that MAC address is not in switch 1's MAC address table, it will flood it out all ports. Well, the danger of this, as we'll see in a later video, is if we don't have one of these ports blocked by spanning tree, then B will receive duplicate frames. We're going to see that can be even more of an issue that we'll see more in just a little bit, okay? All right, so redundancy is good. So it's not like we don't want to have redundancy. We just, in a layer 2 network, need to be able to protect ourselves from it. So, for example, Ethernet without spanning tree. And again, I'm going to look at both of these in more detail later in an upcoming video. But just so you realize what happens again, what if A sends an Ethernet frame to B? Okay. Switch 1 receives it, looks up the destination MAC address in this MAC address table. If it's not in its MAC address table, it's known as an unknown unicast. It will flood it out all ports except the incoming port. Switch 3 receives it. It will do the same thing. Let's say it's also an unknown unicast. It will flood it out all ports except the incoming port. Switch 2 receives it. It's receiving it on its fast Ethernet 02 port. So it forwards this frame to B, but it's also received the same frame on its FA01 port, and it will send that frame to B. We'll see that there's other issues as well, along with broadcast. Oh my gosh, just think if this was a broadcast, right? So we'll take a look at that in another video, but a broadcast is I send this out here, I send this out here, it's a broadcast. Switch 2 receives it, it gets this broadcast here, sends it to B, sends it out this port, but then switch 3 gets a broadcast, sends it out this port and this port. This broadcast here is now received by switch 2 on this port, floods it out again this port and this port. You can see the problem. Hopefully what you see is this is going to create duplicate upon duplicate upon duplicate frames, and will bring down your network faster than you can say spanning tree. So this is one of the reasons why we want to have spanning tree, the main reason why we want to have it. Okay, so anyway, we're going to be talking more about this in upcoming videos. So one of the things too to keep in mind is in Ethernet, there is nothing in the Ethernet frame to kill the frame once it's reached a certain point. For example, in IP, we have in IPv6, we have the hop limit field And in the IPv4, we have time to live. That's set by the sending host, whoever created the packet. Every router, when it receives this packet, will decrement the time to live or the hop limit field by 1. And if it goes down to 0, it discards the packet. There's no such thing in Ethernet frames. So Ethernet frames will live forever until either the link is saturated or the switches are overwhelmed, and it happens fast. Okay, so there's nothing inherent in the Ethernet frame to keep it from living forever. Okay, we'll look at some of these in upcoming videos in a lot more detail. Okay, but I hope you're beginning to see why we need spanning tree.